Prime Minister, you've announced a new framework for migration. Will there be a cap on the number of skilled people who are allowed into the country?
Well, we have announced a new proposal on migration, an overall policy on immigration. Up until now, of course, as members of the European Union, we've been able to set rules for people coming from outside the EU, but not rules for people from inside the EU because free movement has applied. When we leave the European Union, we will be ending free movement once and for all. And that's what our proposal does.
But will there be a quota for skilled people?
Well, what it does is takes a different approach. We've taken advice on this, takes a different approach to our migration by saying, actually, it won't be about where somebody comes from, it will be about the contribution they can make to our economy, the skills that they need, because we want to make sure that we have the skills for the future. But alongside that, of course, I also want to see companies training people here in the UK as getting the right technical education for young people so they develop the skills that can to enable them to take on the jobs that are available.
I mean, you're going to hate me for pointing this out, but you didn't actually answer whether there's going to be a cap, though, whether there's going to be a numerical quota.
No, if you look at, we've announced our policy today. If I just step back and look at the advice that we got from the Migration Advisory Committee, who, of course, we've had a cap on a certain type, what's called Tier 2 of immigration from outside the EU. And what the Migration Advisory Committee said was that actually it was more sensible to look not at having that sort of numerical cap on a particular group of migration, but actually to set the migration according to the skills limit of people coming in, so that you're able more closely to ensure that you're registering and matching the needs of the economy. So what we will be doing is looking at, and obviously we'll set out the greater detail how this will actually operate, but we'll be looking at a system that is based on ensuring that we're getting the skills that we need here in the UK.
And numbers will come down, will they, to those tens of thousands that you promised?
Well, we're still committed to those sustainable levels, as we promised in our manifesto.
Committed to tens of thousands?
Yes, that was in our manifesto. But what we want to do is, if you look at the situation we've had up till now, we've not been able to bring any control in relation to people come from the European Union. It will take time to get to where we want to. And as I've always said in the past, in terms of dealing with immigration, you constantly have to be looking to making sure that you've got the rules right and that people aren't abusing the system. But so it will take time to get to those numbers. But of course, having the ability to bring control in relation to those people coming from the European Union will help in that process.
On those, we are away from a next election, but would you imagine repeating that commitment in another election?
Look, we're committed to, a year away, just over a year away from the last election when we made these commitments. We remain committed to what we said in our manifesto. What we see today is a new immigration policy being announced, which is a policy for the whole, if you like, the whole world, so that it covers people from the EU as well as outside the EU. That will help us in the process of controlling the numbers of people coming into the UK.
Now, on the Friday after Salzburg, you said that you would only introduce new regulatory checks between Great Britain and Northern Ireland with the consent of both communities. They were your words. The DUP has said today they would not give that consent. Does that mean you can't make this compromise offer you want to make to solve the Ireland backstop problem?
We're working on the proposal that we will put forward to the European Union on this so-called backstop. People use this phrase backstop. What it means is a guarantee to the people of Northern Ireland. And we committed to that in December in the joint report. I did that because people of Northern Ireland are part of the United Kingdom. I think it's important that we're able to deal with their needs and requirements as we do with people across the UK. And in that, actually, this concept of introducing no changes in that regulatory environment without that consent of the people of Northern Ireland was in that December joint report. Now, the point also about the backstop is that it's actually designed never to be used. Because what we want to do is to ensure we get the right overall trading relationship that ensures us frictionless trade, no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, and that therefore the backstop isn't necessary and would only be necessary in limited circumstances where perhaps it took a little time to bring those new arrangements into place.
But very briefly, has what the DUP has said today made it more difficult for you to put your new offer?
We're continuing to work on that new offer, and we will put a new offer before the European Commission. If you remember, what I said post-Salzburg is that there are these two key issues that lie at the heart of the discussions we're having. One is the nature of this backstop. The other is about the future economic partnership and how we deliver on frictionless trade, delivers for Northern Ireland, delivers for others as well, protects jobs here in the UK, and how we deliver on that. We say we can't accept what the EU have put forward on the Northern Ireland backstop. We'll put our proposals forward. If they say there are problems with what we've put forward in the Chequers plan, then let us know what those are in detail. If they have counter-proposals, let us know what those counter-proposals are.
Boris Johnson, not a great secret, is devoting his life to making your life as difficult as possible. What was it that you saw in him when you made him Foreign Secretary?
Well, I thought Boris would be a good Foreign Secretary.
Was he?
He was a good Foreign Secretary. Now, of course, Boris was a key part of the discussions that we had that led up to the Chequers Agreement, was part of the Cabinet that signed up to the Chequers Agreement, but subsequently decided to step down from his role as Foreign Secretary.
I mean, Dominic Raab said to me that Boris's proposal to shunt the Northern Ireland backstop discussion till after we leave the EU is the equivalent of saying we want a no-deal Brexit.
Well, I think it's important, and this is what I find frustrating about what Boris has said, is that you're talking about this backstop in this way. The backstop is a guarantee for the people of Northern Ireland. All of us here, all members of the party and members of the Conservative and Unionist Party, we believe in the union of the United Kingdom, and I think that guarantee to the people of Northern Ireland is important.
So what
for
he
us.
said was really unhelpful.
Well, what he appeared to be saying was that he wanted to tear up something which was effectively a guarantee to the people of Northern Ireland. I believe, as a unionist, that it is important that we recognise the needs and concerns of people in Northern Ireland. They're the one part of the UK that has a land border with another country in the EU, and in the future that will be the only land border with the EU that the UK has.
Now, Brexit is dominating all politics, but you didn't come into politics yourself to take us out of the European Union. What, apart from getting us out of the European Union, would you like to be your legacy as Prime Minister? What are the big things you want to achieve?
Well, one of the key big things that I've set, and I did this last year at the conference as a mission, is about more homes being built in this country, because I really worry about a situation where many young people feel they're never going to be able to own their own home. So building more homes is important.
Is that
for
the
us.
single biggest thing you'd like
Well,
to
no,
achieve?
there's several things we need to achieve,
Right.
Robert. Housing is important. It's important because it's a part of the aspiration that people have. It's part of ensuring that each generation is better off than the previous generation. But there are other issues that matter for that as well. Our modern industrial strategy, setting the economy of the future, saying where will the jobs be in the future, and how can we ensure the UK is at the leading edge of new development. That's what our industrial strategy is about. And in order to deliver on that, we need to ensure that people are skilled. That's about skilling our young people and making sure, for example, that technical education is improved in this country. For the first time, we have a really first-class technical education for young people, but also about having schemes to retrain people as they go through their working life. As the world of work changes, as the type of jobs available change, it's important that people are retrained to be able to take on those jobs. So ensuring we have the economy of the future, we're building the homes that people need, and that we're skilling people to be able to take on the well-paid, skilled jobs of the future.
I mean, this is big stuff. I mean, many of your colleagues think that you'll be perfectly happy to go after March the 29th next year. They're wrong, aren't they?
I've always been very clear that there is a domestic agenda. There's been, as you yourself have just said, there's a lot of focus on Brexit, and there's a timetable for the negotiations, and we'll leave the European Union on the 29th of March 2019. There'll still be a job to do in relation to the legal text and the future relationship that we have with the European Union. But alongside this, the government has been making changes on our domestic agenda. We've announced some of those here this week. For example, the stamp duty on foreign buyers of homes here in the UK, which has had an impact on people living here in the UK who are trying to buy homes. And we will carry on that domestic agenda, carry on delivering on the things that I believe are what make a real difference to people's lives day to day. This is about post-Brexit Britain. It's about a post-Brexit Britain that provides opportunity for all its people, but also we see the opportunities for the country in trading deals around the world.
And finally, one final thing in terms of possible regrets. When you became Prime Minister, you said capitalism wasn't working for lots of people. You, for example, talked in the early days of the importance of putting workers on boards. Now, some people would say you then made it very easy for Jeremy Corbyn to come up with the sorts of policies, like a third of boards being made up of workers, that most of your members hate. Have you made it easier for Jeremy Corbyn to pursue a very left-wing agenda?
No, what I did when I became Prime Minister was recognise the concerns of people in this country. As I said, concerns from some people that globalisation had left them behind. We need, in recognising those concerns and addressing some of those concerns, it's important that we also recognise that it's free markets, it's capitalism, it's open economies, it's trade around the world that have brought many of the, much of the great developments in human life. And it's important, of course it's important, but we also need to make sure that it works for everyone. That's why I said I'm working for a country that works for everyone.
But doesn't it worry you that even Tory supporters seem to like these proposals like workers on boards?
Well, first of all, I did say when I came in that we needed to look at corporate governance. I never actually said that it was about putting workers on boards. What I said was it was about looking at how we could ensure there was a representation of the workers' interests on boards, and we've put proposals as companies can do that in a number of ways. Some companies already do that, but companies can approach that in a number of ways. What we need to do is to ensure that we carry on with a balanced approach to the economy that enables us to develop the jobs for people, to get people into work and give them a brighter future.
Prime Minister, many thanks.